It was a normal day in town when Kazehana was training her wind powers. She was trying to make some new moves about her wind powers. But around the same time when she was training in town, she heard this strange sound just only a short distance behind her in a alley. She had never heard any sound like that before. But she suddenly stopped, and the sound was like a humming, and then suddenly a small bang or something. And she went went to see in the alley was and tried to figure out what caused the sound in the first place. And when she arrived, she saw a young woman on the ground, unconscious. She was wearing a different, unusual designs of clothing. She tried to wake her up by shaking her, but she didn't wake up at all. So Kazahana could not just leave her there. So picked her up and carried her home to her place. But there was something about this young woman or young girl that she had found. She never was very strange until she noticed the ears. They were very pointy ears. In her life, she has never seen or heard anything like it. But once just looking at her ears, it reminding her about elf ears, at least from the fairy tales. And she thought maybe, what if she had been was born with these ears, or if she had somehow modified her ears some way. But she wouldn't get her answer within a few hours when suddenly she heard a sound from her bedroom. And this girl suddenly woke up, and she was terrified seeing where she were. She just sat up, and Kasehana tried to calm the girl down, explained that her name was Kazehana, and she asked for her name. And she said her name was Zelda. Zelda asked, where is she? She is in her place. And she had never seen anything like this in this room before. Like the band signs, anything like there were posters on the walls, mirrors, or all kind of things that she'd never seen before. And even Kazahana tried to convince, or at least tried to talk to Zelda, asked her what happened, because she found her in an alley. And Zelda explained what happened to her, just at least what she remembers. She was practicing some new spell that she just learned from a book. And somehow it opened some sort of portal. And she believed that this could have been some sort of easy way to. She thought this was some sort of transport, or at least some sort of. She believed that this was some sort of transportation spell that opened a portal from one place to another within her kingdom. But what she didn't know, though, that she made a little bit wrong pronunciation of the spell, and in fact it did open a portal, but it opened to another, to apparently to another dimension or another realm where she had not get used to. And that was probably one why the sound and the humming sound she heard. But Kasahana just laughed a little bit and said, magic doesn't even exist here. So, but Zelda explained that her people, well, most of them have been using this magic for as long as anyone can remember. She tried to use a spell again, but it turned out it didn't even work. Maybe there wasn't any magic in this realm that she didn't even used to. But Zelda explained that she needed to explain more detailed. She tried to convince Kazahana about what just happened, and Kazahana then asked, tell me about your kingdom. And she did. She told them her all about it, and Kazahana was still not very much convinced. She believed that maybe that Zelda were some girl that has suffered from some sort of amnesia or memory loss. So she took her to the doctor just in case to see if she was okay. The doctor explained that she had not suffered from any memory loss, but then she asked about the ears. But Zelda explained that she was born with these ears. And the doctor said it is possible that you can be born with different features. So Zelda was taken back to Kazehana's home, but they were on the way back. Zelda was stopped many times, seeing bikes, cars, airplanes, helicopters, even skyscrapers all over the place. She never expected to see anything like this. She had never seen it. For some reason, seeing how reaction to see all of this modern world did actually somehow convinced Kazehana that Zelda was telling the truth. Normally, people who had been never seen this kind of modern society would react like that. If Kazehana never had seen her reactions, she would never have believed it. So Kazehana decided to let Zelda to live with her for the time being until she maybe find out some way, better way, place for her to stay. But there were about something about Zelda that she couldn't even explain. Sometimes when after just shortly after that Zelda had moved in with Kazehana sometimes came on from her friends finding Zelda sitting on the couch reading books. Mostly about history, geographic history, about the world's geographic, and most other things. She even had started learning how to use a computer. And she started learning more about the world, about some things like that. And every single thing that Zelda read was even more curious. She found it more very stunning, interesting. She had even get used to living in a more modern society, but there were still very some things that she was not used to. One of the things was that she was very loved to take a shower. She often used that, and even take a bath, warm bath, often. She never had the same comfort as back in her home kingdom. And Kazehana was very curious to see how much still the modern things still very much surprising Zelda. Especially the time when they went to a store to buy some food, how seeing all the food was prepared, bread in one section, milk and butter in one, and so she was very surprised because it reminded her back home though. But this was not the same. But Kasahana believed that maybe Zelda wouldn't perhaps she maybe wouldn't like to be in a modern society. She asked Zelda after about she had been living there for about almost 2 months if she would want to go back to her home kingdom if there was a possibility. But Zelda said even she was the princess of her kingdom, but knowing that there was not possible any ways to go back, she had to get used to living in this modern world or a different realm. So she decided to stay there. And Kasahana had decided to let Zelda to live with her because since Kasahana is the only one that she has spent most time with, and she hasn't even anyone else to go to in this world. And after being living together as roommates for about almost a year, things had started to turn out much better for them as that they expected. Kasahana one day came home drunk after being partying with some friends almost all night when Zelda were just cooking some food for her and Kasahana. She didn't expect though that Kasahana would arrive home so drunk. She literally passed out on the floor. So Zelda had to drag her to bed, but that didn't happen so often as she believed. Since since after Zelda had moved in as her roommate, Kasahana had tried to be less drunk as more often as she could. Before then, she was more drinker, but now she doesn't even drink that much. But it was about something that Zelda liked about Kasahana. But it was like her personality. It was like She was very like herself, very honest about things, and she doesn't even rush into things into in dangerous situations. She always thinks first before she acts. But after been living together for about a year, Kazehana started to like Zelda even bit more and more. First, it was just they seemed to have more things in common. They liked the same type of music, the type of food, and they even had started like interlocking things. They liked to watch movies together, and she even has not been asked by some of her friends if Kazehana even were in love with Zelda, since they had been introduced to Zelda in some shortly after that she moved in. They first tried to ask her more about Zelda, and but Zelda, she actually started to enjoy more of Kazehana's company. It happened one time when Kazehana was so drunk and in an apartment she had literally fallen asleep on Zelda's shoulder until she kissed Zelda twice. And that's even shocked Zelda, but she didn't even stop her for some reason. But the next day, Kazehana had no memory of what happened the night before. But when Zelda mentioned about these kisses, Kazehana was a bit surprised, but after all, she used to that she is doing things that she doesn't even remember the day after. But there was something about when she said about these kisses. She said she asked them if she enjoyed the kisses for some reason. And Zelda blushed and she was so red in her face and she just nodded that she liked them. But after that, she didn't drop the subject right away afterwards. And she almost avoided Kazehana for almost 2 days when Kazehana brought the subject up again. She asked Zelda if she had any feelings for her. Just she wanted to know for sure. Zelda explained that she did have feelings towards her, but she didn't want to be doing anything to jeopardize their friendship. She wouldn't even understand if that Kazehana didn't have the same type of feelings back for her, because she didn't want to jeopardize their friendship since they have been built together for the past year. But something about her reaction, though, was made Kazehana just smile and said that she said to her she liked her more than as a friend. She had understood that if she even believed that Zelda didn't like her the same way back, and she didn't even want to tell Zelda because she had almost a fear that she would probably freak out or say that she didn't want to be her friend anymore or anything, something like that. But Zelda, she said to Kazehana that she never would end up their friendship. And even if she did move out, left their apartment, where would she go? She had no other place to go. She didn't know any other one else except some of their friends, but she didn't have any job to pay for or something. She had no money, and she didn't know she had no family. So where would she even go then? But after this talk, Kazehana then asked if Zelda wanted to be maybe try the dating. Zelda normally would have said no, but she said that she was willing to give it a try. So they decided to go out to the movies the next day. And for some reason, they had no idea what type of movie to watch. Kazehana thought maybe what about comedy? A comedy movie. But Zelda wanted to see an action movie, since they often seen action movies or action shows together. So both agreed on an action movie, and it was a great time. They had a blast. They had such great time afterwards. And even after the movie was over, they actually went to a small diner to have something to eat. And there, Kazehana asked Zelda what she thought about the movies and what she thought about the date so far. And Zelda explained that she actually had a great time at the movie, and she actually had never been so happy to be on a date with Kazehana. And then Kazehana was just smiling at her. And Zelda, she said that she even would like if Kazehana was like her girlfriend or something. And Zelda though, she only smiled and blushed after she said that. And Kazehana, she said that if she wanted to be her girlfriend, they could be that. And Zelda was a little bit surprised even that she was even accepting the idea. But Zelda said maybe they could try to date to see if there were any some sort of spark between them, just to see if it would work out. But both had even agreed if they wouldn't work out, they would still remain friends and roommates as well. So after about several weeks of being dating, the seems only can get better and better between them. They like to be going to go out for to watch some movies or just go to a restaurant or even be at home cooking dinner together. Even their friends was a bit surprised of finding out that Kazehana had found someone to be with, and especially though, since after she started dating Zelda, Kazehana's drinking had gets much less and less for each single day though. She has only get home drunk maybe once or twice after that. But they usually drink mostly at that apartment. Or maybe goes out with some of their friends to have something to drink. But after this, their relationship had only getting stronger for each single day. But they, but after one day, when Kazehana came home so drunk, Zelda was waiting for her, but they were expected to have a home. They were decided to have a date at home to watch some movie and have some dinner. They were expected that Kazana to be home around 7 p.m., but she didn't even arrive until almost like 11 p.m. And Zelda, she was so mad. She was expecting that maybe that Kazana would be maybe just perhaps like 5 or 10 minutes late, but several hours. She even asked where she were. Oh, she was out drinking. I was out drinking with some friends, and they went home, and I went to another bar, and after that, it's just a blur. That was the last drop for Zelda. She said to Kazahana, if you cannot get your drinking problem or your drinking under control, maybe we will not work out. And after that, Kazahana just collapsed on the couch, passed out, and Zelda, she was so mad. She rolled a load and put it on the fridge and just left the apartment and go somewhere else. The next morning, Kazahana woke up with this unsurprisingly no hangover. But when she looked around the apartment for Zelda, she wanted to apologize for this her drinking behavior and that she tried at least she had managed to get it in control. But since she went out drinking so much last night, she wanted to apologize for that. But she didn't find her anywhere in an apartment. Not her bedroom, or in Zelda's bedroom, or not anywhere. Until she found a note saying that she will went to see their friend Miya Asama staying there for a couple of nights until at least to cooling off. Even Kasahana called Miya and asked if Zelda was there. And she said yes, but she didn't want to talk right now to her. And Kasahana then only said, please give her a message saying that I'm so deeply sorry about this drinking behavior. I promise her I will never do this again. And for some reason though, Zelda did trust her, but she didn't go back to her apartment for the next day. So there was just something about this drinking that she promised. And surprisingly, when she came back, There were no more wine bottles or any beers in the home. Turned out that Kazehana had thrown away all the liquor she had in the apartment. But she saved actually only one bottle of cider, non-alcoholic one. That was only that she saved. And Zelda was impressed how that she had the will to stop much drinking. But she was okay if Kazehana went out drinking with some friends, but just promised not to don't drink that so much again. And she did. And from time to time, she actually went out with some friends to drink drinking. She only took maybe one or two glasses of wine or perhaps any strong drinks. And she promised to keep that under control, and she did. Their relationship was very rocky at that point. They seldom believed that their relationship probably would fail, and that they would end up breaking up, and that she may be ending up she moving out or something. But she would not let their strong bond in their relationship to just break because of her drinking behavior. But since Kazehana managed to keep her drinking under control, and she didn't go out drinking every day, they happened maybe perhaps like a Friday or Saturday, either at home or with some of their friends, but not so often. Perhaps maybe once or twice in each week. So it happens just she was happy to see that Kazehana managed to control her drinking. And after they'd been together for about nearly 5 years, Zelda maybe thought, what about if they want to be ready to take the next step in their relationship to marriage? But she was a little bit afraid if Kazehana wasn't ready herself, so she didn't even bring the topic up. But it was only until when Matsu, one of their friends, had actually asked Kasana topic, about this particular topic that about marriage. Kazehana said that she wanted to get married with Zelda at some point, and she actually then proposed to Zelda only about 2 weeks later, in which she said yes. After being together for 5 years, they were both ready to get married, and they even had a small traditional Japanese wedding in town. It invited only their close friends. But it was something after that the party itself was everyone had this a great time. Zelda and Kazehana went to a nearby city for the honeymoon for about a week or so. When they came back, everything was back to normal. Zelda had been working as in a local food store, and she liked that. And after they'd been together married for about 3 years, they want to have a family of their own. So they went to a local orphanage where they found two daughters to be adopted. One was about 2, the other one was 4. Both daughters was very shy around them though. But after they some get used to their mothers, and even Kazehana had never expected to fall in love with someone like Zelda. She's she would describe Zelda like she's a beautiful, very sweet person, very strong, and very funny. And if someone had asked Zelda to describe Kazehana, she would say that she is strong, can be a little bit stubborn, but most of all, beautiful. Both both of them actually love so much each other, and their love for each other is so strong. None of their friends could never expect that to see Kazehana to be this much in love with someone else. But they were just happy to see them to be married and have two daughters of their own. And that's how Kazehana and Zelda and the true love got a family together. The end.